So just 2 years ago, I uploaded my first ever video, and ever since then, I've always been trying to do a lot of different content on this channel, whether it be the video game characters Venomized series, or the older views I made a while back. Nonetheless, though, I want to start this year on my channel off with a two-part series, with the first part, the one you're seeing right now, talking about a lot of Plants vs. Zombies redesigns, which, in my opinion, are pretty bad, and in the second part, talking about a lot of redesigns which are a lot better than the originals themselves. Anyways, though, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's just get into it. So for the tall nuts, I really just feel like it's a little details for me. To start off, I don't really feel like the lighter colors they went with for PVZ2 are really as good as the more darker colors they went with for PVZ1. I can see if you like the more light browns they used for the second game, but I feel like the darker colors in the first one were a lot better. Also, if you see in the first game, you can see on how there's a line that divides these two layers of the tall nut. While in the second game, the line looks more like one of the actual layers. And when I first saw the design, it looked like the tall nut had 3 layers instead of 2. But no one would really care about all that. It's more just little nitpicks for me. But what I don't like at all is how, if you take away all the little details of the tall nut in the second game, you will just get a rectangle, basically. Well, I feel like the reason they made him look like that was because they wanted him to look more like an actual wall. Well, okay, that actually is a pretty good reason for why they made the tall nut look like that. But even still, just because he acts like a wall in the game doesn't mean he actually should look like a wall. Although what I do like about the redesign, though, is the face they chose for it. I like it a lot better than the derpy one they made in the first game, so I mean that's definitely something I'll give it. Anyways, though, that's all I got for the tall nuts. Next up, we have the Tangle Kelps. So when I first saw the Tangle Kelp, I honestly thought it was the same one from the first game, just without the spikes and without all the shadow from the first game. But then when I actually saw it, I found out that no, that actually is just a shadow. It just looks pretty weird. Although this can just be because in the game, the Tangle Kelp is underwater, so this is exactly what the shadow is going to look in the second game because he's underwater. It's not going to be that dark. So I'll give him that. But what I won't give the second design for the Tangle Kelp is the eyes they chose for it. In the second game, they made the eyes a dull red. Now, instead of the eyes glowing, now they're just a dull red. Now they're not glowing or anything. Also, a weird thing they did was they added pupils and eyebrows to the design, which I don't really feel like works at all. I like it how in the first game, the Tangle Kelp's face is mysterious because it's covered by all the shadow, all the shading. And it was mysterious. You wondered what the Tangle Kelp actually looked like without all that shading. But then you move on to PVZ2, and I feel like I already know a lot about this design. There's nothing really mysterious about the Tangle Kelp in PVZ2. And I feel like they made him a lot more expressive, which did not work out in his favor at all. Anyways, though, That's all I really have to say about the Tangle Kelp in PVZ2. It was a good idea, and what I definitely will give it is how they actually made it. They actually made the Tangle Kelp in PVZ2 actually look like kelp and not just some vines with spikes on them. So definitely give the Tangle Kelp in PVZ2 that, but not the eyes though. That was definitely a major takeoff. Anyways, though, let's move on to the next one. One of the last, but definitely not one of the least, the Scaredy Shrooms. Okay, so I'm just gonna be honest, I have absolutely no idea what they did to the Scary Shroom in the redesign. So to start off, they made the Scary Shroom a lot shorter, and if you just take away all the details, it just looks like a normal mushroom in the redesign. Something I definitely like about the original is how they made the Scary Shroom a lot more tall and skinny, while in the redesign, there's really nothing about it. It's just a basic mushroom with a face. Also, if you look at the mushroom cap, I actually like it a lot more in the redesign because I like on how in the redesign the mushroom cap is a lot more huge. I like on how it's a lot more bigger than the original. But what I won't give it is how they interpreted this part of it as a crack, and then they gave it another one, and I just don't at all know why they did this. It doesn't look that good at all, and it comes off more if he's been if he's been like attacked before. I just I don't like it. I don't like the eyes as well. They gave him these weird eyes in the redesign. Well, I like the black dotted eyes in the original. I don't really know how to say anything about the redesign. I just don't like the eyes, how they made him a lot more short, and I don't like the cracks they gave him for his mushroom cap. I think that basically sums up everything for the Scary Shroom, in my opinion. Now, for this next part of the video, I wanted to talk about two plants, which I don't feel like were really that bad of redesigns. I just feel like they weren't as good as the originals, and there's a few problems I want to talk about with them. First, we have to start with the Plantern. Now, at first, there's nothing really wrong with the redesign. It basically just looks like the original. But then you have some parts where it's just a lot more simple and there's not as much detail as in the original. Something I definitely have to say is each side of the lantern, you have these curvy bits which they didn't add in the second game. Also, the the stump that they put the lantern on is a lot less detailed than in the first game. Also, they made the eyes actually like black dots, and I like that a lot more than the orange eyes they gave them in the first one. As I said, there's nothing really different about these two designs. It's just that in the Plants vs. Zombies 2, they made the design a lot more simple and they got rid of a lot of the little details. Anyways, though, let's move on to the next one, which is the squash. Now, this has nothing to do with the actual video, but I just want to say something. The image I when I was looking for images of the squash, I got this really um high quality one from the first game. and it's kind of weird, them side by side. You just have this one really high resolution one, and then you have the other one that's not as high quality. It has nothing to do with the video, I'm just saying. Anyway, so talk about the actual design. I like it how in the first game, the Squash's face was a lot more just grumpy, and the second one comes off as just a lot more mad. Also, I like it how they made the face in the first game a lot smaller than the second game. I feel like it's a lot better. It doesn't need to be that expressive. And just the detailing itself is a lot better. I know I can't really say anything since I got the image that's just a really high just a really high quality image. So I can't really say anything about that. But even if you go to like less high quality images of the squash from PVZ1, you'll still see that like the details a lot better than the one in the second game. They just made him a lot more simplistic in the second game, which I don't really like. Also, they did it again where they made him a lot more bright. They made the colors a lot more bright, which I just don't really like. Although that's all I have to say about the squashes. All right, now we move on to wait, hang on. Wait a second. Okay. Now we move on to the worst, most despicable, disgusting, gross, hideous. You know what? Oh, you know what? You all get it. He's covering the Grave Busters. Okay, now we move to the Gravebuster and PVZ2. Now, this is definitely my most hated redesign in this whole video, mainly because of just how different it is from the actual original. Usually in all of the ones I covered previously, in this one there's really just no resemblance to the original at all. This just feels like an entirely different plant, and I just don't get why. So in the original, the grave buster was just supposed to slightly resemble, a grave, and he had these like flowers, or I think yeah, they just had these like flowers growing on him and stuff, and that was it. He also had these like big teeth and like these scratches, I guess. I guess you can call them that. I feel like the reason that the Gravebuster looks the way he does in the second game is because they try to make him a lot more plant-like. And yeah, that can usually work a lot in these games, but I don't really feel like it does. The reason the Gravebuster in the first game worked so well was because it was like a simplistic design. Like it worked. It was a simplistic design, and it didn't have to have all these details. While in the second game, they gave the Gravebuster so much details, and in their attempt to make him more plant-like, they just made him a lot worse, and I don't get why. I think like in their attempt to make like the plants more like cute or like marketable, they forget what actually made the plants cool to begin with. You have a lot of these plants that have these cool designs, and then you have PVZ2 that just makes the plants a lot more cute when that's not the point of the designs at all. They were never supposed to be cute, they're just supposed to be cool. And honestly, I feel like that's all I have to say about Gravebuster. He's just the worst in my opinion. He has the most different design, and usually that can work out really well. a different design can be really good, but in this case, a really different design really just made the Gravebuster a lot worse. And just, it's a shame, really. They could have made the Gravebuster so much cooler, maybe by maybe by giving him like the original eyes or something. Just one thing to tell us that this is the same plant. But no, instead they just changed everything about him. Although that's all I have to say about the plants in this video. Yeah, I didn't really know what to do during this video. This was very different and I like that a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed this video because this was something very different and out of my comfort zone. So, if you guys like this video, then make sure to leave a like. Anyways, though, I hope to see you guys on part 2, where I cover all the good PVZ redesigns. Bye.